And I know you had another international president here earlier in the year, Rick King. Now, he's the very best speaker in all of the Rotary world. And that's not just my opinion, that's his. And people often ask, what do the past presidents of Rotary International really do? And I say, well, we're kind of like a corpse at a funeral. We're absolutely essential for the occasion. We don't have a very big part to play in the program, and they sure as heck don't want to hear you speak. I've been associated with Rotary a long, long time. I grew up in a little town in Ohio, and I used to go to Rotary every Monday noon. I had the best attendance of anybody there. It was, well, I was a waiter, and I didn't know much about Rotary except they ate a lot of food and had that big wheel over the head table. But it was a small Rotary club. As a matter of fact, that club was so small, they only had a three-way test. Now that's a small club. They had those three questions. Is it fun? Will it hurt anybody? Will anybody find out? That's all you had to know to belong to that Rotary club. Now I've got some notes here. I don't really need them. I just want to know when I'm finished. You know, when you get old enough to be the world president of Rotary, you got to be real old. And things start going, your memory and everything. I have a couple of friends who were out to dinner a short time ago, and they were having dinner, and one of the guys says to the other, he says, hey, what's happened to you? He says, what do you mean? He says, well, your memory seems to be so much better than it used to be. He says, all right, I'll confess. I'm going to a memory school. A memory school? What's that like? He says, well, everything's associated, and you think of one thing, that helps you remember something else. He says, wow, that's pretty interesting. What's the name of the memory school? He says, the school is called what are those long red things you give your wife on Valentine's Day? He says, a rose, that's it. Hey, Rose, what's the name of that memory school? Well, when you forget it like this, they elect you president of Rotary International. You know, it's great to be back here in Brentwood. I spoke here once before. 46 years ago, I spoke at this Rotary Club when I was district governor. And so it's nice to be invited back every 46 years. And thank you very much. I come from Moraga. Moraga is a little town over the hill. Moraga is a Spanish name. Freely translated means large mortgage. It's now we have a Rotary club over in Moraga. It's a breakfast club that meets at noon. We have a lot of older members. I don't know why people always think that Rotarians are so darn old. I said to my wife last year, I said, now, do I really look 88? She says, no, but you used to. You know, I was at my Rotary club here a couple of weeks ago, and one guy says, you know, my wife says, let's go upstairs and make love. He says, can't do both. Well, and another guy was bragging, though. He says, you know, I remember the night I made love for 1 hour and 3 minutes. He says, 1 hour and 3 minutes? When was that? He says, the night they turned the clocks back. Well, that gives you a little idea what my Rotary Club's like over there. We got a lot of retired people. When my wife used to say it's time for dinner, I used to go out and get in the car. Well, I better say something before I finished. On occasions such as this, I frequently ask the question, the Rotarians I see, when did you become a Rotarian? Like these two new Rotarians became a Rotarian today. And they say, oh, I joined Rotary about 5 years ago, or I've been a member of this club since 1995, or no. I said, that wasn't my question. I didn't say, when did you join a Rotary club? I said, when did you become a Rotarian? You see, there's a huge difference. Two members joined Rotary today, but I hope one day they'll become Rotarians. You see, I've known members who've belonged to Rotary for many, many years, but they never quite became a Rotarian. You know, there are some people that have been Rotarians for many years and just joined a club. You see, a real Rotarian's a person that takes special pride in their business or profession. You can count on them. You go to them and say, who in our club sells carpets? Who sells groceries? Who? And you know that you're going to be treated fair and honestly and with integrity. Their word is the kind of words you can always depend upon. And they're always willing to step forward and say to the president, is there a job I can do in our community? You see, service above self is more than just a motto, a slogan you hang on the wall. It becomes a way of their life, a way of life. I have a friend, Skip Kreidler, who passed away a short time ago, but he used to tell a story about the Rotary Club of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Well, he was from Tulsa, but he told the story about the Houston Rotary Club. Now, the Houston Rotary Club used to be the largest Rotary Club in the whole world. They had over 800 members in the Houston Rotary Club, and they had so many members they were always looking for jobs to do. And there was a phone number in the phone book, telephone book, that you could call. If there was something that you really saw needed to be done in Houston, you could call them up, and if the Rotary Club could do it, they'd take it on. On this particular day, the club president called Tom and says, Tom, we've got an urgent need to help a single mother down in the Spanish-speaking part of our town. She's got a seriously ill son, and the boy's got to go to the county hospital. We'd really appreciate if you'd get down and help on this task. Tom says, hey, don't you know I'm a busy guy? I got a big office here, and all these people depend upon me. I don't have time to take some kid to the county hospital. And the president says, Tom, we keep calling on you time and time again, but you're always too busy. I'll tell you, if you don't take on a job once in a while, maybe I ought to spend the rest of the year and just drum you out of this club. Tom says, okay, nobody ever quite explained it that clearly before. What's the job to do? An hour later, Tom was down in a part of Houston that he had never seen before. He went down some dirty streets among some old buildings and found some old tenement houses. He found the right building and parked his car and walked up 2 flights of stairs. It was a dingy hallway, dark, and he found the room number and knocked on the door. The door just opened a little bit, and there was a small Mexican woman standing there with an infant in her arms. But through the open door, he could see over on the well-worn sofa a little boy laying there. He explained that he was there to take the boy to the county hospital. And he went in and kind of gingerly picked the boy up with a sticky-fingered youngster and kind of led him down the stairs to his car, put him about as far over in his Lexus as he could against the door, and started on his way to the county hospital. He'd only gone a couple blocks. The brown-eyed little boy looked up and says, Mister, are you God? Tom says, why do you say that, boy? He says, Mister, my mama was on her knees praying to God to help us, and you knocked on our door. Tom couldn't think of anything more as he drove on to the county hospital. He checked the boy in at the first floor, and they went up the elevator to the 4th floor where there was to a 4-bedded ward, and there was 3 other boys, sad faces, tears in their eyes as these 3 youngsters lay in the 3 other beds. He left the hospital and went back to his car. But Tom didn't go right back to the busy office where all these people were depending on him. No, Tom went down the street to a toy store. And he went in and he bought some stuffed animals and some teddy bears. And he drove back to the county hospital, up the elevator to that 4-bedded room, and turned the tears into smiles as he gave each boy a teddy bear and a stuffed animal. Then Tom went back to his car again. But he still didn't go back to that busy office. Tom went down to a grocery store, and he got 2 big bags of groceries, as much as he could carry, and drove back to that tenement house, up the 2 flights of stairs in the dingy hallway, knocked on the door and give the mother the bread and the milk and all the vegetables that he could carry. Finally, Tom went back to his office. First thing he did was pick up the phone, and he called the club president. He said, "Mr. President, do you know how bad some of the poverty is right here in our community? There are people that are hungry and sick, and nobody cares about them. It's about time our Rotary Club gets involved. You appoint a committee, but make me the chairman." When did you become a Rotarian? When did you just join a Rotary Club? Did you ever call the club president and said, "There's a job to do in our town, and I'm ready to do it. Make me the chairman"? Many members become Rotarians the day they discover that Rotary can add something special into their lives. Some people become Rotarians the day they volunteer to help rebuild a community playground. Others become Rotarians the day they took some disabled youngsters to a day at the zoo, or perhaps teach them how to catch a fish. Some became Rotarians the day they lifted a person crawling on the ground and put him into a wheelchair and gave him mobility for the first time. Has anything ever happened to you that made you say, "I think today I became a real Rotarian"? Oh, I can tell you it's a rare experience to pass out food to somebody who's starving. Did you ever see a person who's starving? You know tomorrow they probably won't be alive. Did you ever give a pair of shoes to a child who's never owned a pair of shoes? It's an amazing sight to see a blind person have the bandages taken off, and they see their grandchildren for the first time because they had Rotary-sponsored cataract surgery. Perhaps one of the most touching experiences a Rotarian could have is to have a mother give you their youngster, and they open the mouth and you put 2 drops of polio vaccine on their tongue and know that you've kept that child from having the horrible paralysis and disease and death that comes from polio. Oh, this has been done over 2 billion times by Rotarians around the world. Over 99% of all the children in the world have been given polio vaccine because of Rotary. My wife and I have participated in a number of the international polio immunization days where our whole country, everybody in the country gets involved in distributing polio. We've been working in India and Turkey and the Philippines, Ethiopia. Perhaps one of the most amazing and traumatic experiences we had was in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, during the opening ceremony where the president of Ethiopia was there giving vaccines to little children. And we had about 100 little boys and girls walking down. We gave them Rotary T-shirts that hung down about their ankles. And the president put the 2 drops of polio on their tongues. And just that moment, on this side of the room, there were about 35 little youngsters, all in wheelchairs, with crutches, with braces on their legs, twisted legs, bent backs, withered arms, and they sang a song to the president of their country. It went something like, "It's too late for us, but don't let other children get polio. Do what you can to kick polio out of Africa." Yes, it was too late for those children, but it was not too late for all these others that received the polio drops from Rotary and the World Health Organization. That's been the magic of our Polio Plus program. I recall a day when I was in a Nigerian village in Africa, and I watched fresh water being pumped out of the ground for the first time. For generations, the women in this village had carried water in buckets on their shoulders about 1.5 miles to a polluted stream. 2 or 3 times a day they would carry the water. But now Rotary put a pump, just pumped the water right out in the middle of their village. And everybody was going around, because Rotary has to dedicate everything. We put a rotary wheel on pumps and everything. I put rotary wheels on just about everything you can imagine. I remember in Mexico we were dedicating urinals. Rotary wheels, you gotta see it right there. But this day we were dedicating a pump. And I was saying a few words, and through my interpreter I said, "What is the lady over there sitting on that rock, what is she trying to tell me?" He says, "What she's saying is that when Rotary put in our pump, our children stopped dying." You never can tell what happens with those dollars. The dollars were contributed and recognized here today for the Rotary Foundation. Well, we provide grants for people to see, cleft palate surgery and wheelchairs for those with no mobility, and medicine, malaria nets, and school equipment where education is so limited. When Rotarians work to meet basic needs of mankind, food and health care and clean water and sanitation, education, relief from poverty, we realize that these are the instruments of peace that we talk about. A newspaper reporter cornered me from the New York Times shortly after I was selected president of Rotary, and he says, "You're interested in peace." He says, "What do you folks plan to do about the situation in the Middle East?" I says, the questions got harder after that. I says, "Rotary is interested in peace, but we don't have the weapons of war. We don't have tanks and ships and battleships. We work through the instruments of peace: food, water, shelter, medicine, helping people meet their basic needs where the need for fighting no longer exists." You see, the activities of the Rotary Foundation and Rotary clubs around the world are like a pebble that you drop into the water, and the ripples go on and on and on, and you never know where those dollars you give to the Rotary Foundation or to your club or to just Rotary activities in the district, you never know who they're going to touch, but you know that you're doing something to make the world a better place. Well, I think I've talked about as long as it seems. So, as I traveled around the world, the message that I gave, real happiness is helping others. I often used to quote an old Chinese proverb. I don't know why the Chinese are so smart. They just sit around thinking up proverbs. There's an old proverb that goes like this: if you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a week, take a vacation. If you want happiness for a month, get married. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. But if you want happiness all your life, It only comes by helping others. So my message today is to every Rotary member, if you want to become a real Rotarian, do something. Do something, good things right here in your community, and you do it every day. You can reach out to some place then and around the world. You can bring happiness, you can improve the lives of other people. People you'll never know or never meet, but because you're a Rotarian, you know that others are having a little better life. I assure you, when you reach out and do some just random acts of kindness each day, when the end of the day you look in the mirror and before you go to bed say, what did I do today that was kind, better for somebody else? I assure you, when you reach out and do these random acts of kindness or work with fellow Rotarians on some worthwhile community project, that will be a special day in your life. And that will be the day you can look in that mirror and say, you know, I think today I became a real Rotarian. God bless you all for what you're doing, and long life to your past president, and even longer life to your incoming president. God bless you all.